Hello, everyone. Testing. Can you hear me? Phil, can you hear me?
Yeah, everything is fine on my side.
Excellent. Okay. Great. So, hey, everyone. Welcome to a new installment of a webinar with Preview 3D. We got some really great stuff to show you today. This is meant to be interactive. So as we're showing you some stuff, if you have any questions, don't be shy to put your comments into the comment section, and we'll answer everything that we can. And hopefully it's going to be an exciting session for everyone and see what we've been working on. Before we show any of the new stuff, I guess we'll do a quick beginning. First, we'll make introductions, but then we'll go about a bit more of what we've done before and then what's new into the product. So first, my name is Michel Besner. I'm the VP of Product. And I've got my colleague here, Philippe Bedard. He's our product manager. So we're working both together in the product team, and that's we're pretty happy about what we'll show you today. Good. So I'm not sure if everybody knows about us from a history perspective. We've been around for several years, 2 years plus in commercial mode. Before that, we were building the platform for more than 5 years. And where we come from is really, first, we're known for our point cloud to mesh conversion engine, as well as our design engineering tools. So I guess we'll start with that, Phil. If you just want to show some of the existing stuff that we have, I think you have a demo data set that you've prepared that we can show some of the quality of our environment. What you'll notice at first when you're seeing our application, both on the desktop and on the web, is that it's extremely interactive. It's really like almost playing a game of a manufacturing site. And that's something that is really one of our strengths. We're using a lot of AI, gaming technology, and other fancy stuff in the back end to make these things extremely fluid and interactive. This is a full mesh model. So we had a 3D scanning that was done. This was a terrestrial scanner done with one of our partners, VisaPro. And basically, here you can see that Phil is able to freely navigate without any hitch. It's looking pretty real. We're taking all the imagery from the scanner and applying it to the meshed environment that we create from the point cloud. Yeah, I guess we'll show you a bit of the mesh themselves. It's really good to see that what we have built is really a dynamic level of detail system. So we can actually display very complex environments. And this will work very nicely in any kind of computers. Yeah, as long as you have a somewhat reasonable graphics card, you should be okay to use this. And so one of the things that we're known for is really one of our first patent we did in the company was a cutting tool, allowing you to edit the mesh by basically removing any assets you have into the environment. So here, what Phil is doing is really doing that. Like, we're going to cut this specific asset, and in a few seconds, you're able to select this area and remove the floor. Give it a name if you want to keep it as a reusable asset. And now, basically, after a few seconds of processing, fairly quick, and boom, you see the assets being erased. And that's part of the cutting process, and it's going to come back, and then it becomes a movable asset that you can use to either duplicate if you want to create multiple instances of that asset, like you're doing here. We can actually move it, turn it around, and it really becomes like playing with Lego blocks, but with 3D reality capture. So that's definitely one thing that we've been doing for a long time, and that's pretty unique in how we're doing this and the quality, as you can see. And of course, then we can create different design layouts. And one thing that, if you've been involved in any of like design engineering projects, name of the game is to be able to quickly do rapid iteration of designs, right? And so our tool has been built just for that, to make you able to do quick iterations in minutes or hours instead of days. And that's a big difference when you have a lot of stakeholders involved in a process of like, okay, I want to change the design layout of my production line. I want to move equipment around to make it more fluid for my production needs. I'm changing what I'm producing from a product perspective or manufacturing process perspective. So a lot of things can be done, and you can use the web application then to have rapid reviews and collaboration with your stakeholders. And so here what Phil is doing is basically adding some specific 3D models. And so yeah, you can, of course, adjust the scale depending on the asset size. And so we can, of course, adjust to be a proper scaling for actual representation. And you can see here we're actually able to add CAD components with the 3D scanning environment. And now you have a very simple way of creating a new design layout of this environment. And that's really something that makes us unique. I don't know if you have any questions. Kevin, thanks for the comment. Yes, it's definitely a very rapid iteration process. And here what Phil is doing is showing some measurement capabilities, all the usual stuff you would expect from a design engineering software. We can actually measure, edit, move things around, and collaborate. So that's really where we come from. And we've been extremely successful. All of the top manufacturing companies, automotive, oil and gas companies are using our tools for doing this type of design layouts. And today we've got some exciting stuff to show. And so that's what we're pretty happy about, because when you think about it, like, it's great what we were seeing here. Like, you see this amazing 3D mesh and it looks real, but in reality, what people are dealing with in a manufacturing site, either you're the manufacturer itself or you're the engineering firm, you're dealing with assets. Any of these equipments or assets that you're managing within your environment. And what we're coming up with today is really a new system that we've been building that's basically an asset-based system. And the key aspect to that is that how do you properly map the assets that you have in your facility to their visual representation on the scan, on the meshed environment. And that's what we've been working on, what we call basically RealityAssets, is this hybrid integration of the mesh environments segmented into logical asset components. And then, of course, then you can start mapping other information, and we'll cover some of that during this presentation. But really, it's how to start with reality capture. Reality capture, we feel, is the first version of the truth. When you go and scan a facility, the scanner basically gives you an actual copy of what is on site. So if you're not sure if your CAD environment or any of your plans or documentation you have is up to date, the best thing to do is to start with 3D scan. And so these reality assets that we're doing is really that new step that we're doing into our system. So if you look at, we've done these this cut before. Now, if you think about how can we start defining assets, maybe not even assets that you want to move, just assets that you want to document. And so Phil, yeah, so you've got the screen here. So that's a great demo data set that we got from our friends at BIMstream. And so as you can see, there's a lot of equipment, and equipment in manufacturing have different forms and shapes. Nothing is just a nice rectangle. Like, you wish that the equipment were all rectangular, but it's not. And so these reality assets are really like these asset definitions that can have multiple complex shapes. And so I guess we can start showing how to create one of those reality assets, and then we'll come back to the this environment where we have a lot of nice information to show you. So simple tool. What's great is that we've built this to be very intuitive. So you have a preview area where you got multiple views. You can even change the views if you have, like right now you have top, right, and isometric view. You can also have an orbit view if you want to, just have this object, turn around, so you can really see what you're doing. And again, what really is key is to make this very seamless. So if you see the bottom part, there's a turntable, and that's really how to help you turn around the asset that you're currently defining in space. And so very quickly, you can turn around and say, oh, I miss that back part of that asset, and it can just move around. And of course, yeah, we just started with a really first basic rectangle. But what's nice in our tool, and we're the only product that does that right now, is that we can have multiple boxes to define the shape of this asset. So if you have an asset, of course, this was a fairly simple shaped asset, but as you can see, Phil will do a few more examples here where we can define multiple boxes, and basically this series of boxes then creates that spatial environment for this asset, right? And now certainly I've joined these two equipment into a single asset definition. So you guys, as you can see, they can be as granular as you want. You can define assets like a specific, valve, all the way to a complex like piping system, and we'll show you some examples again in this presentation. So a lot of control, very easy, very intuitive. I mean, we've been playing with the tool internally for several weeks now, and it's actually pretty fun to basically just define these assets. And then, what's cool is really how to start attaching properties to this, right? So assets, whether you're doing design engineering or other work, you want to start thinking about what kind of information you want to attach to those assets. So you might have specific information about inspections planning, or specific details about I want to document the height, width, weight of those equipments. Whatever you want to think of, you can actually create all these parameters. And as you can see, it's a very simple interface and really quick to start documenting your facility like that. So that's definitely something that we focus a lot on. The usability and the ease of use is definitely one of those key areas. I don't know if there's anybody that has questions. I haven't seen any comments on the tab after Kevin did a comment. So if you have any comments or questions, we definitely are taking questions as we go. And so, yeah, so Phil right now is showing, once you've done the asset, let's say you want to refine, you've realized that it wasn't properly defined, then we have all the tools to come back and edit these budding areas. Again, it's really making it simple, easy, intuitive, very visual. And then as you're selecting the assets, then you see all the information about the parameters. And so I think he's going to create exactly that. Green Machine has multiple components to it. So we're basically going to select different areas. And like, again, you can see, very easy to fine tune what's included or not into the asset. Again, you can change the boundaries very easily. Now we're going to add other parts. There's another back part of this asset and the controller as well. So again, very easy, very quick to make these asset definitions into space. And yet there's no constraint. Like you can have like as many boxes you can have to define one of those assets. And so that's really where you have a lot of flexibility and making sure that you have full control of everything. Yes, Pierre is asking, are you able to name those assets? Absolutely. You can give them any name you want, and you can assign them any number of parameters you want to create for those environments, right? So that's definitely, again, something that, again, is designed to be flexible. I see here that there's another question for Kevin. So the question, it's probably one question, but if I was to summarize it, it's really the challenge about how do we integrate between what we're doing here and other environments, including like AutoCAD or Revit and other solutions like that. And so, as you can imagine, this is the foundation of our next-gen foundation for our product, right? And so once you're defining these assets, conceptually, these assets will have multiple representations, which can include CAD BIM representations of the same assets. If you have a pump in your system, pump 24, well, that pump might have multiple visual representations. And that's the whole goal of this. And we are indeed working on specific integrations. We are definitely working on a Revit integration. So you're able to access these assets right inside of Revit. That will make it very seamless to define the assets here, bring them back into Revit, either as a point cloud or mesh or segmented assets. And if you want to do like work like reverse engineering work to recreate that asset into Revit or other things like that, that will be possible as part of our system that you're seeing here again. And another example here that Phil is doing, again, showing all the controls you have with these new tools. Very easy. I mean, you could train someone in a few hours, not even an hour, to train someone how to define an asset and then basically start documenting your site very easily. I'm sure that that's something that also that the engineering firms will be happy about, to assist manufacturing company to document and define these assets. And so, of course, when you're seeing this, one question that would arise is like, okay, well, can you start attaching information like even documentation? And that's the whole point, right? Once you're defining these assets, then you can start having custom parameters like, I want to attach, the user manual or a link to another system that might have like asset inventory for parts on that piece of machinery and so on. And again, you're seeing that we're able to quickly design these complex shaped assets, right? Because manufacturing sites are not simple rectangles. And that's our key message, that it's important for everybody here listening that, you can create as complex environments. Also, you can create sub-assets. So for example, here, Phil wants to create a valve asset on the asset that he just created. He can just create an additional asset for a specific valve. So you really can have all the granularity you want on your environment. So here is just zooming in, and then it's going to create this sub asset, and then everything basically naturally coexists into the system. Very transparent, very fluid again. As you can see, these are assets that are created in just a few seconds, and now I've got the valve and the overall bigger asset system that we just created. And don't be shy if you have more questions. We're definitely here to answer anything you might have in your mind, things you're wondering about, or even asking us questions about future considerations on how this is going next, right? I think we want to move to let's look at the this more complete. Like we have a demo data set that we've built that has more information. And in this example, one thing we've done is we start to connect also the BIM metadata. And so if you click on some of these assets, we also have, you can see here now we've got all these properties from the Revit that were integrated with these meshed assets. So as you can see, RealityAssets is going to be sort of a container environment where you can connect your mesh, your point cloud, your BIM CAD data, your BIM metadata, all to a single selectable environment. So really changing how we're dealing with assets from a user and user perspective. And any of these parameters, obviously, you can assume that we're working also on the searchability for assets. So you can imagine that if you want to start looking for assets by type, by name, other parameters that I've defined for these assets, everything's going to become very soon searchable as well as part of our upcoming releases we are working on. But I really can see here that's very flexible. I'm sure that some of you are asking the question about, this is great. These bounding boxes are pretty fluid and easy to create. Have you thought of other ways of defining these assets? And of course, we definitely talk about other things. And so one of the first tools, it's still in beta in the release, but it's already pretty functional. We've created this Magic Wand tool. So if if you've done Photoshop Magic Wand before, it's going to be very similar in experience with this. Basically, if I want to start defining a piping asset, and we're going to start from scratch here, and basically I have this Magic Wand tool here, and with this, by just clicking on pieces of the equipment, this piping infrastructure, and if I could just move around the camera to just making sure I'm picking the right things, boom, I'm starting to build this whole piping system with just a few clicks. Right, and I can click around on the other side, making sure that I'm capturing the full volume of these assets. And boom, now I've got this environment. And I think there's a few things I've got picked in the back, but it's okay. And you can see now I've got all these bounding boxes back to this initial bounding box tool that comes here. So if you want to keep on refining, adjusting more of these bounding boxes, there's a few things that were not fully captured, but you've got full control on this definition. And this could also be used to create sub assets. Again, like I've talked about. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, piping is definitely something that we are working a lot of different tools to help, manufacturers and EPCs to really define piping information. Again, piping is hard to define because it's, again, not a single rectangle shaped object. And so, but here you can see we're combining Magic Wand and these rectangle tools, and there'll be more tools coming soon that really make it very easy to define. As you can see here, this was done in just a few seconds. So very quick. And again, this is something that you can teach a junior technical engineer to do this work. Doesn't need to be a deep expert in how to do this. And I'm going to do another example here with the Magic Wand, picking some of these parts of this machinery. And again, moving the camera around to pick more components, clicking here, a few places, moving here, and there we go. And you see, like, just a few clicks, and we now have this machine. And here, in this case, I already created just a single box because it's all contained to a single element. So there's a bit of intelligence how we minimize the number of boxes that are created when you're using the Magic Wand. But again, very easy, very simple process, and you can start documenting any of your information very quickly that way. Any other questions on the line? Definitely don't be shy. It's as you can see, we're answering all the questions that you're asking on this webinar. Here, Phil is going to show, again, just before at the beginning of this webinar, we're showing how you can do a cut. We can do the same thing with these assets now. So he's going to basically cut the asset so you can still do the design engineering work like before. And here, basically, we're going to cut it. Kevin has a comment here. This platform really starts painting a clearer picture of what's envisioned when we talk about the industrial metaverse. Absolutely. Asking the question about AR, VR features, definitely. Well, I mean, I think that the Vision Pro has opened up a lot of eyes about potential application for AR, VR experiences. We already have a desktop VR enabled mode on our desktop app. I think it's just that we're just scratching the surface here. I think that for sure in the future, we're going to have more capabilities from an AR, VR perspective. So definitely that's something that's part of our roadmap for sure. Paul's asking, is it detecting the piping from the underlying point cloud? It's actually here we're using the imagery and the mesh environment that's was created out of the point cloud. So technically, yes, we are using the point cloud, but in using the mesh and imagery output of the point cloud data that we have. And so that's really how we're doing it. It's a lot more visual for users by using the mesh and the imagery. A lot simpler also to operate and manipulate, as you can see here. So let's go back to the demo data set. And so what's interesting here is that we're starting to see new use cases and how you can use these type of digital twins, right? Because now it's going to be very easy for a manufacturer or an EPC to document a site and create all the assets you want with the documentation. So one use case that we're seeing is people that want to do, for example, like asset inspections. You don't want to plan for inspections, right? So some assets, okay, are reachable, by just, standing up and, you can reach the asset, but assets sometimes require like a scaffolding or other, means to a crane or something else if it's very high. And so again, you can start creating parameters on your assets, including information about inspection. Okay, this one requires a ladder. You can start putting in, the frequency of the inspection you want to do, or when was the last inspection. And so all these things become, enrichments to these visual assets, then really gives you all the context of this. And so if you want to start planning, okay, I want to install telemetry on a few assets into my space. How do I start planning that, and how I can start visualizing all of this? Here, I think Phil is going to show how we can teleport to a specific asset, right? So I've clicked on this, and now I can just teleport there and I can see it. So a lot of control and flexibility to give to the users and facilitating visualizing, but going visual is one thing. It's to the next barriers, how to understand the space. As you can see here, as we're building these asset systems, these reality assets is the foundation to help any user and company to start understanding better the space and connecting any information that you might have. Again, here we're seeing some of the BIM information that was like applied to this asset. So a lot of controls here. So planning asset inspections is definitely an area that we're seeing customers interested in using this type of functionality to better understand. Also, if you start applying measurements on these assets, you might not have to do any more of these isometric plans, because this will help you to do it directly onto these meshed assets. Another area that we're seeing is, people that are doing design engineering is like, what if you can start documenting these assets that become reusable, right? So if you have all these pumps, these valves and other things, and you want to start using these as a asset library. So even before having to cut them and export them into an outside system, Pre-3D in how we're doing this now is to become more of an integrated asset library, as any asset you're creating will become searchable, reusable, so you're able to select a specific pump and copy it and move it around or move it between different sites. So a lot of flexibility again in how to reuse either the meshed asset as a reference object, or even when you're planning, let's say you're planning to move some equipment between two facilities, to be able to do these reality assets and start doing these movement between two systems and sites. Do I have any more questions? Another area that's interesting is, and we'll talk about that. I think Phil has another data set, but it's like health and safety documentation, right? So a lot of the sites are, there's danger, right? There is, toxic materials, there is, risk of, someone getting hurt. And so how can you start using these reality assets to document your site from a health and safety perspective, from a facility management perspective? So you can think of different layers of information that you can start applying and linking into these reality assets. And I think here Paul is commenting about liking the idea of someone familiar with a facility doing the asset identification instead of me doing it. Absolutely. So if you have someone that knows the site and you're documenting an environment, then it's going to be easier to get this information. And it's all about providing context to all the stakeholders, right? So unless you're very familiar with the site, you might not know. If you're going here, and here we've got an ocular, washing station. And so how can you start, for example, putting in, your documentation about how does it work, how to inspect it, make sure it's working, because if the washing station is not working, that's going to be a big challenge. Again, like how you simply connecting the dots between the various data points, documentation you have in different systems. Either you have the PDFs or you have links to specific, links into your document management system or ERP and so on. I see that Pierre has another question here. What would be the intent behind the plugin for Revit or AutoCAD or self-build and so on? Well, obviously, I think we're going to work first with Revit and we'll build from there. The whole key is that in preview now you have point cloud data, you've got meshes, you've got these reality assets. And yes, you can just export a file and import that file back into Revit. But obviously, Revit sometimes has a hard time dealing with point cloud or meshes. And so by having a plugin directly into Revit, it's going to give you a lot more convenience, helping you say, okay, I'm looking for this site. Can you give me this specific clipping area in a certain density of a point cloud or density of a mesh? Or I want to get these specific assets into Revit, and seamlessly between our application and Revit, giving you the data you're looking for. So you don't have to start doing back and forth file IO just to get the data you need to do your work into Revit. Again, here I can think Phil's going to do a bit more magic wand to start building these assets. And once you start playing with this, I can guarantee that it's quite actually fun to do this work of defining the asset. As painful you might think that defining its assets are, these tools that we're coming out with are really easy to use, as you can see from Phil's work. Like he's just clicking around and building boxes to define these assets, whatever the shapes they are, and it works really well. And that's really changing, we feel, the way that companies will want to start documenting their sites in a whole new level. That was not possible before. Either you're just doing core engineering work or just want to document your site for health and safety, or ultimately even building like asset library to doing planning asset inspections into your facility. And sharing this, of course, we have a web environment, so you can share this with your third-party vendors, your EPCs, and other contractors you might have that are involved into your different projects, into your environment. And so I know I've got questions from Paul, Kevin, and Pierre, but if you have anybody else that want to ask some questions, I was expecting for a few harder questions, which I didn't get. So don't be shy to drill us on some hard questions. Again, here, that's a really cool way of using the boxing, right? So you can actually use the box environment and easily follow the piping to build these complex piping systems. Sometimes there's a lot of piping all intertwined together. And so these tools are designed to, again, using a turntable, I can easily turn around and reposition myself and then keep on following the piping information. Again, as you can see, this was done in just a few seconds that Phil was able to build this entire piping system without any issues. So again, usability first in mind. Any other questions? Don't be shy. This is meant to be question rich, because if I don't have a lot of questions, it's going to be a shorter webinar, which is okay. But yeah, we're here to answer any of your questions and questions you have. And I'm sure that if some of you are interested to try this out, our account managers are really interested in talking to you and see how we can help you. So the question from Pierre here now is, what's the quality of the export into Revit? The quality, you have control over the quality. So you want if you want to export low to mid to high quality on exporting an asset, definitely you can have that control. So if you want to have a very dense mesh or a very dense RCP file, you can decide that density that you want to have. And if you have like assets that are too big and you want to have a smaller density because you're looking to just have like a smaller reference point, then you can do that as well. So you have full control over the type of data and the density of that data that you have exported to Revit. And with the plugin that we'll have soon enough, that will be even easier and convenient to facilitate the integration with Revit for Revit users. And maybe if you don't have any questions, if you want to just comment on how much you're liking this, do you feel this is the kind of features that will help you document your site and help you in your engineering projects? I know any comment in the comment section is definitely always welcome. We're always thriving to understand how we can help our customers and partners about things. The Revit plugin is not yet there's no date yet. It's coming soon. Definitely, if you want to talk to one of our account managers, we can definitely keep you in the loop about when it's going to be available. Georeferencing, Pierre, yes, we do have that. Any scanning data that was captured with geo location information will be retained as part of the conversion to the mesh environment. So then you can have all this information. And there's a few more questions. Paul is like, is it detecting the pipe diameter? Yes, so we are able to detect the pipe diameter on the meshed environment. Here, I think Phil was just showing also an X-ray mode, which is really cool if you want to export an X-ray view of the environment into AutoCAD, for example. Kevin has a really good question about to be able to link this model to a corresponding PNID. This is definitely something we're working on. Not available yet, but it's definitely part of our roadmap to link these reality assets. And you really think of what we're showing here today as the foundation of a lot of things that will happen over the next several months on how reality assets become central to connect data points, either spatial documentation to non-spatial like a PFD or a PNID will all be things that will connect together with these reality assets for sure. I think that was pretty much what we had prepared content-wise. Any other questions, things you'd like to see? If you're too shy to talk during this webinar, definitely send us a line. You can email us at info@preview3d.com or go to our website, and we have a lot of, you can fill a form to connect with our account managers, or if you comment into the LinkedIn stream and say, hey, reach out to us, we have some questions, we'd like to evaluate this and maybe even do a POC. We like to do a lot of POCs with customers. We understand sometimes that your sales process and procurement process are lengthy. And so we're always available to work on a shorter term POC to demonstrate how valuable our tools are and can be for your organization. We are fully SOC 2 Type 2 certified. We definitely are. We've passed all of our security tests with all these major companies, so we definitely can be trusted on how we're deploying the solutions for our customers. Any workflow plan to update scan areas as they change? Absolutely, Alan. We are definitely working on that as well. It sounds easy to do, but it's not as trivial. But we are coming up soon with some solutions to address that. And then Pierre has additional questions about workflows with ACC. That's again part of our roadmap that we'll soon be able to announce that. We're definitely, after this Revit integration, we will focus on the Autodesk Construction Cloud integration. So a lot of integrations coming in the next quarter and plus. Integration with systems like ACP, integration with Amazon Web Services, VAMs, and ACC, and others that we'll have once we've got these RealityAssets up and running, like we've just released. Then there's going to be a lot more data point integrations for further enrichments of our solution. Any last questions that you want to squeeze in before we stop this webinar? I need one last question from someone. Any question, right? Anyone? Got to have one last question. Or at least a comment about, this is cool, this is great, loving this. Is it changing your life? I hope so. I know that some of the initial feedback we've had from customers we've talked and presented this over the past several months, that we've seen many aha moments where people are realizing the whole potential of where this is going. And so hopefully you're getting that same understanding and feeling from it, and we can definitely spend more time into this. We'll do another webinar very soon. We actually have a webinar with Amazon Web Services. I believe it's next week, right? I don't have the date in front of me. I should have noted that, but yeah, we have a webinar. Stay tuned. We'll definitely post that onto our LinkedIn. Kevin saying that, bravo. I think everybody's just like is speechless. Well, that's great. I'm happy to hear that. Hopefully that's the case. If there's no other question, like I said, reach out to us if you want to try this out. Do a POC so we can start showing you how this can work for your facilities or your customers if you're an EPC, and looking forward to future installments of webinars. We'll have a lot more webinars in the coming months with even more cool stuff that we're working on. Phil, thanks for all this live demo. I know your audio sound wasn't too good, so that's why he's been mostly silent and just showing the stuff. But thanks everyone for attending this webinar, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon about how to create these context-rich reality assets for your manufacturing sites or for your EPC customers. Thank you very much. Have a good one.